And just like that, folks, day one of the World Cup is in the books. Qatar go down, the first host nation to lose their opening game. They lose Ecuador 2-0. In what was kind of a lackluster game, I would say. Enter Valencia, 2 goals, probably should have been 3. Honestly, that offsides call in the beginning. I'll show the graph here, and I think it probably is the right call now that I look at the overall VAR angles that they weren't showing on the broadcast, but especially the keeper comes out to play it. There is only one defender back. It's still like an inches call, and I'm not sure that they have the right scene, but regardless, after an early VAR call, it ends up being knock that out of the way, right? So an early VAR call, 0-0, 3 minutes in. It gets you thinking like, oh, wow, all the talk around this game maybe it was true. Maybe Qatar does have something on this. But Ecuador proved to be far too much for Qatar going forward, and a real just lackluster game from their goalkeeper, Saad Al-Shib. And I don't know if he necessarily starts next game. If we're looking at this a more critical viewpoint, I think Valencia was, so much better than Qatar in this game. I don't know how they go forward with the same keeper or the same starting lineup. They probably are going to want to at least get some sort of result. Now they have to play Senegal and the Netherlands. That's going to be tough. Now, from the Ecuador standpoint, Ecuador come out of this with 3 points, and now all of a sudden that game against Senegal becomes so much more important if they're going to make it out of the group stage. I didn't have Ecuador out. I had them in 3rd place, but this result here, I thought this might have been a draw, a 2-0 dominant win with Enter Valencia just looking so good. Almost had a hat trick. So everything on the field went a little bit better than expected if you're a non-Qatar fan. If you're a Qatar fan, the dozens of you out there are probably upset to see that, but everything we knew about this team, would tell you that they'd be in for an upward battle. And honestly, from my viewpoint of analyzing this team beforehand, what this tells me is that, I think CONCACAF is maybe not as good as even we expect it to be. So for those of you unaware, Qatar played in the Gold Cup in 2019, and really, put up a decent showing. They had a banger against Panama. They ended up, escaping the group stage, winning the group stage actually, with Panama missing out. And it maybe makes you think that, our analysis of Panama might not be where it should have been. But that's neither here nor there. Circumstances of the day and just the environment as well. Anytime that you're, playing with such expectations on yourself, as I said in my video yesterday, it can go one or two ways. So with that being said, let's talk about everything off the field. So Fox Sports had the opening ceremony. They had the pregame. I eventually switched over to Telemundo once the game started, but it was incredibly disheartening, especially when you consider the mass shooting in Colorado Springs that happened overnight at a LGBTQ plus club, to then turn on the Fox Sports broadcast and see them just glad handing to Qatar and their royal family. It's the juxtaposition there just didn't sit well with me. If you look at what happened on the BBC, they did a really good job of just calling out, what brought us here, and as far as the human rights aspect of everything goes. And, I think in the run up to the World Cup and even, the years ahead of it, there has been good coverage, right? It's not like this is all buried and just coming out now. It's stuff that's been out in the open that we've known about for a long, long time. But seeing that, Fox wasn't going to send a full broadcast team over to Qatar until they paid them money to do it, you could really, knowing that lens, you could really tell this was so much of a sponsorship, right? This was a sponsored pregame put on by Fox. And you could tell by just how much they talked up the Qatar team, by how Alexi Lawless was trying to convince us all that Qatar was a really good team. And then how they tried to convince us that this country was open to everyone, that it was about love, that it wasn't about hate, that we needed to stop dividing us. And then you look at the crowd and it's all men in the crowd. And if someone, they've outlawed LGBTQ affection in the country for visiting fans. It's how you can host a pregame, talk about only everything on the field, talk about how impressive these stadiums are, how impressive this construction was, without talking about the migrant workers who have died, without talking about the migrant worker conditions and the legislature that they've had to put through because of the overwhelming human rights disasters that they've been. There's laws in the books in Qatar now, and put forward by the International Migrant Workers Agency, that are supposed to make living conditions more livable. But when you talk to people on the ground, when they've had reports to people on the ground, they've said there really aren't any noticeable changes. They've still had people dying during construction of these stadiums. You just take everything, right? Take it all together. And we've been talking about this a lot, right? It's not like this just came up today. There are some English Twitter users that are talking about how Yanks are just finding out about this. We're not just finding out about this. But when you look at our broadcast, the broadcast that is put into American audiences, it's no reason why, if you don't look any deeper than the surface level at the World Cup, you would not know gestures broadly and everything else going on. You wouldn't, because our media, the sports media that's broadcasting this game has been told over and over again to keep politics out of this. But it's not politics. It's human rights. It's safety of others. It's not dehumanizing a large portion of our population. Not dehumanizing women. Not dehumanizing LGBTQ plus rights, right? It shouldn't be that hard to at least say something. But when you're taking in gobs of money from a country to send your full production over there to put on, your typical World Cup broadcast, it is very transparent when all of a sudden you're talking up this country as much as they did on the Fox pregame. Anyway, I just need to get that out off my chest. I was just very disheartened by that, especially, waking up to the mass shooting in Colorado Springs today. And obviously my thoughts go out to everyone in that community. We suffered through it in St. Louis relatively recently with a shooting at our metro school, and it's something I think about often. So I know everyone in that community is going through something. Just know that I'm here for you. You can always reach out to me in my DMs. I'm always here to listen. I'm not sure if this will reach anyone. It probably won't, but just know that this place is a safe space for that kind of conversations. But in the meantime, thank you for coming along for my surface level dive into the Ecuador 2 Qatar 0 game. We got more soccer coming up. Tomorrow will be a better day. Be a little bit more fun. We won't have to focus as much on the pregame. I'll be watching on Telemundo, so feel free to join me. In the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up if this video hits your feeds. Subscribe if this is your first time watching me. And as always, folks, we will talk real soon.